Hello, welcome back to the Think Rugby podcast, episode number 14 of season number 1. Thank you for tuning in. If you made it this far, very stoked for all the support. As always, did some live reactions and some TikTok reactions to the team sheets for the games that just happened at the weekend. I live streamed it. I didn't live stream. I match reacted to the Scotland-Australia game. Had a bit of success, got some good viewership, and got some more subscribers on TikTok and on YouTube as a result. So positive news there, and I think that sort of means I'll be doing it again in the future when I get a chance. I really enjoyed it interacting with people. Thank you very much to everyone who interacted in the comments below and whatnot there. Okay, Andy, how you been doing? It's been a while.
Yeah, not too bad, yeah. And for links to everything that Zav has just talked about, check the description.
Of course, yeah. So, lots of rugby this weekend. Did you get up to much rugby yourself, or? I don't know.
Yeah, I watched the France game. I watched parts of the Ireland game, bits of the Wales-South Africa game, although that was a foregone conclusion. And I watched all of Scotland, Australia, and bits of England. Who were they playing again? Japan. Bits of that game.
Yeah. Funnily enough, the Japan game was the one that I didn't really. I did watch it later, but I actually chose to watch the football, and I think that's not because I prefer football. It's just kind of how much I dislike watching England play rugby. I just find them so boring at times. Apart from Marcus Smith, we'll get onto that in a minute. But apart from Marcus Smith, I just think it's so just predictable watching them play. But also in defence, just how they've never learned, and it's quite boring to see teams manage to get around the edges of them. But once again, we'll get onto that very, very shortly. But before that, what we'll do is I think we're going to give our team the automation series. So a 15-a-side team. I have went pretty split between most of the nations, or most of the main nations anyway. Maybe one tier 2, if you like, nation in there. And I don't mean Wales, and there's no Welsh players in my team, but we'll get onto that. So I think we'll go from prop. We'll just go 1 to 15. Start with props, the front row. I have went with Loosehead. I've went with Angus Bell. In hooker, I've went with, might butcher his name, the Fiji captain, Ikanveri. On tight head, I've went with Tyrell Lomax.
Okay. They are not who I went with. Not any footballers on there, no?
Sorry?
Nothing. It's just, watching football rather than the England games.
Continue.
Loosehead, I got to be honest, in terms of other forwards, besides from one, which was a standout for me, which was tight head, I went very generic. So I went with Oxenchae at Loosehead, Cody Taylor at hooker, and for his performances in 3 of the 4 games, I went with Xander Fagerson at tight head.
Okay, fair play. I did think of Xander Fagerson. I'm just double checking that Angus Bell is a loosehead, but if he is tight and not loosehead, I do apologise, but I do think he's a loosehead prop. Yeah, I did think of Fagerson, but I just feel Tyrell Lomax had a lot more responsibilities in terms of the opposition he was up against for the most part, and I still think he's the best tight head prop in the world. Not just in the scrimming aspect, you can have an argument for other people like Sir Fagerson. And another, I think, probably about 3 different South African props as well. But I just think for overall game, Tyrell Lomax, just ball in hand and actual game plays is phenomenal, and probably the fittest tight end prop that I've seen in quite a long time. I went with the Fiji hooker. Fiji had an okay alternation series. It kind of very led them quite well, especially like Nye Clegg's absence for some of the games, but you got a couple of tries, I'm led to believe, and also I think Fiji's made a good account for themselves, especially when they were up against it. Even against Scotland, I know it was 17 points to 57 in the first game basically, but even then they got 3 tries, and he did manage to beat. He was that driving force for that the Fijian Drua club side that represented Fiji that day. As for Angus Bell, I think once again fitness levels and just pure workhorse of our props, absolutely unbelievable. I am really worried in case he is a tight head and not a loose head, but never mind. but if not, Angus Bell definitely deserves to be in the team, possibly over Tyler Lomax. But that start that came to mind was when they were playing England, I believe, and they beat 9 defenders, which was a record for a prop.
Mm-hmm.
That always just springs to mind in the actual work rate, and that's kind of what Australia based and prided themselves off. This whole tournament was a work rate, and just wanted it more than the opposition, as shown with the England game, and the Wales game was quite apparent as well. Got any real reasons to why you've went with your choices?
Well, I thought Ferguson, his level of performances have been pretty high during the tournament, and the other two was nobody really stood out, so I just went for kind of two of the better players on reputation. Not to say they're dreadful tournaments at all, but nobody else jump out at me for those two positions.
No, that's each their own. Cody Taylor won. I don't disagree on. However, I think Cody Taylor might be a little bit nervy because you've got Amua, who came off the bench quite a lot. He also started when Taylor was injured for the one game, and Amua played phenomenally, especially against that England side. He completely he absolutely crunched Faye with Bosso in a tackle, and that's not just why I'm giving it to him, obviously, but just his pure dominance and his carries as well. Very, very mobile for a big lad as well. And like I say, if you had him in there, you could have Angus Bell, Amua, and Tyrell Lomax front row for myself. He's probably the most mobile front row you get in world rugby. But I've not went with him, but he was definitely in with a shout. And for Oxen Che, Oxen Niche, Tomato, just an absolute beast. The only thing I would say about him is the rotation with South Africa. They had so much rotation. I've struggled to put in so many South Africans, even though they did do a clean sweep for the teams. I have struggled to put it more South Africans in that I maybe could have. I've put in 3. Was a lot of feeler out there for you guys. Okay, second row. Another South African. I went with A.N.S. I think you probably went with the same. And at number 5, I've went with Mefu for France. Former Australian boy, moved off to France, playing absolutely out of his skin just now, I feel.
No, fair enough. I also went with Etzebeth because his performances have been remarkable. And again, I might be being a bit bland, but I went with R.G. Snyman with him.
R.G. Snyman, once again, he didn't start every game, but when he did come on, the amount of offloads, I think he averages more offloads per game than any other player in the world just now, international and club. Just now, it's absolutely unbelievable. For a second row as well, would you believe it? Is R.G. Snyman the new version of second rows? Like you see, the development of hookers on certain positions like that, and wingers, how much they've changed over the years. Is second row one of those positions which is changing up? Because you get a Eden Etzebeth kind of second row, where you're just complete brute force and power, and driving at scrums and mauls, and doing the best. But then R.G. Snyman, who's the mobile, getting the offloads away, different kind of way of attack. Yeah, okay, you can use your power, but you can also get the hand away and keep, almost like Virgin style, keeping the ball alive, keeping it open. So is this going to be a different kind of way that people are going to approach the second row position? Because R.G. Snyman's not the biggest muscular, he's 6'9", whatever, but he's not the most muscular person. But he makes up for it with all his skill and attributes. Another thing I did think about R.G. Snyman was, because of that, his attributes, can't only South Africa do that because the rest of their park is so big. He cannot be bullied because he's a little bit more slender. I'm sure he's strong enough with S&C, but in comparison to Eden Etzebeth, Eden Etzebeth would be far much more stronger at scrum time anyway. So that was one thing I kind of thought is, can only South Africa get off with this, or can other clubs adapt the same sort of play style in that second row position? So Snyman, good shout actually. Back row?
Back row, I went with World Player of the Year, Peter Steph-Toy, Sia Khaleesi and Jasper Visa. There is a similar theme gathering here, but I promise I've only one more Springbok in the team.
Well, I've went with one Springbok in my back row, and I've also went with Peter Steph-Toy, the World Player of the Year. I mean, fully deserved in my opinion. I put a poll out in one of my rugby charts asking who they thought deserved it. About 60% said Etzebeth, which I just did not agree with, and there was 3 of us that said Peter Steph du Toit, and lo and behold, for the second time in his career, he's gotten World Player of the Year. So I went Peter Steph du Toit, I've went with Rob Valentini of Australia, and then I've went with Walsh Satiti. And the order I would do that is 6 Valentini, 7 du Toit, Satiti at number 8. Have you got any order of yours?
Just Detroit at 6, Khaleesi at 7, and Wissa at 8.
Fair enough. Not much. I'm trying to think of other players that could have got in there. I mean,
Rory Darge, I've been very impressed with him. Sorry if I cut you off there, but Rory Darge, I thought, has been pretty solid this autumn.
I think, yeah, he's been solid, but I just don't think you could put him over. Like, I don't think he comes close to any of those 3 players. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think anyone really comes close to any of those players. But yeah, Rory Darge had a good competition. So did a lot of the Australian back row, like McKnight and Wilson, did as well, but they just weren't up. Once again, when you're looking for in the back row, those enforcers, the guys that are making all the tackles, lots of carries, breakdown work. I think those 3 are the ones that really, really stood out the whole competition. Yeah, stepping up and putting your body on the line. Yeah, Rory Darge was decent, but once again, I'm trying to think of other players. Surveyor is always in with a shout, but this time round, probably for the first time ever, I've not put him in like a team in the tournament, and I'm being genuine there. He probably doesn't make the cut there. Close though, maybe a bench player if we would do the bench, but we aren't doing that, so he's not. And yeah, that's the only other players I can really think of. Any other honourable mentions from you? I mean, please don't mention any Irish players because I think they were pants.
No, I didn't actually include any Irish guys in this team. Spoilers.
Same. I just don't think Ireland were good enough the whole competition. I mean, they lost to one game, which was against the All Blacks, which the All Blacks definitely deserved to win. They scraped past Argentina, and you could tell by there they weren't happy with it. And I just feel it's just been a bit flat. I mean, they've seen past Fiji easy enough. They've got Australia this Saturday, but which will be a real test. I mean, I still wouldn't take Australia lightly even despite losing to Scotland. Scotland did quite convincingly beat them in the end, although for a lot of the time it didn't feel that way. But we'll get onto that later on, the Australia game. But yeah, I just feel like Ireland were very flat. They just weren't themselves. I mean, I think a lot of their players are, you mentioned it before, they're getting on a bit and they've got not that much depth. I think that I was kind of quite clear was the lack of depth in some of their games. And well, lo and behold, they weren't very convincing in any of the games apart from the Fiji game. But yeah, we've got to move on to scrum half and fly half. So I've been very reluctant. No, I'm not reluctant to put him in, but I was looking for a way to not pick him. But I feel just with all the rotation from South Africa in particular, and like the other teams, I had to go with DuPont. And I didn't want to, but he was the only one that was sort of like nailed on scrum half, really, being perfectly honest. And yeah, he did play well, although there was a couple of times he was exposed against who were France just playing? Argentina. He was exposed a couple of times and they kind of sussed out his game plan a little bit. But other than that, he didn't really put a foot wrong. Of course, he won the Sevens Player of the Year. I mean, he probably did deserve it, but it was always going to go to him anyway.
Yeah, no, I did think of DuPont as well, but I opted to go for Ali Price.
No, you're joking. Come on, let's not.
Yeah, I am joking. Sorry. Ali Price is just not very good at all. I don't rate him. No, I also went with DuPont. There was not really any other clear or obvious suggestion for anybody else to go in, and I was like, well, it's got to be DuPont.
But the thing, every team rotated so much. I think of South Africa, they maybe had 2 or 3, at least 3 different scrum halves. Scotland were similar. Even England. Yeah, I'm just really struggling. I mean, I've just got one English player in there, which I'll come on to right now, which is Marcus Smith at 10. But once again, there's not very few scrum halves, and for fly halves, it's kind of the same. There was quite a lot of rotation with that. Out of the good fly halves, I mean, Costello was playing for Wales all the time, but he wasn't very good. Caleb Muntz was possibly with a shout. you know what, Caleb Month is a bit of a dark horse. He scored a couple of really good tries, and I set up Fiji up for a couple of good tries against Ireland and also against Wales in particular. So he's an honourable mention, but I've went with Marcus Smith at number 10. I think he's a shining light in a dark place for England rugby just now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I also went with Marcus Smith, but I did think about Thomas Ramos, who played at least 2 of the 3 tests for France this Autumn Nation Series at fly half in place of Romain Intermark, and I have to say he's played relatively pretty well. That was the only... I was like, if I wasn't to pick Marcus Smith, who would I go for? And I immediately thought Thomas Ramos, but yeah.
I think you're right, actually, and I'm quite reluctant to say that because I never want you to be right, but yeah, I think you probably are right there, Andy. I mean, he's not a natural. He is a natural 15 in the sense like he used to play there, but he's not. That's not just like set like on position. He does it for Toulouse from time to time, but it's not. He's not always playing fly half. But it's good to have that availability. I mean, you seen Dupont going there. What happened was Ramos would slide to full back and Dupont would go to fly half. So the reason I never went with him solely was because France didn't have to depend on him all the time. Which, I mean, it's not a bad thing having to depend on fly half, but he wasn't just like their get out of jail card, which Marcus Smith was for England quite a lot of the time, about a good 90% of the time. So that's why I went with Smith over Ramos. But once again, honourable mention, Thomas Ramos. We'll go centres now. Fire away, mate. On you
go. Well, I went with Tuipulotu, who had another great few games for Scotland, being made up to captain. I think it's going to further improve his game. And next to him, I put Swali, or however you say his name.
That's right. Yeah. Why have you went with Swali?
Well, similar reasons to what you just said about Marcus Smith. He has been backed very well by Joe Schmidt, and also financially very well by the Australian Rugby Union. But I did think, considering I think how bad Australia were during the Rugby Championship in the summer, I thought, fair play, here's a guy who's came in, like, properly went in and just played very freely. And although I didn't enjoy watching him get very upset with Tuipulotu for whatever reason at the weekend, I did think a lot of the time, wow, what a joy to watch. This is a real talent. This is the guy who's put his name on the map now for Australia.
He's definitely the face of Australian rugby in years to come. If he decides to come, I think he will commit until the World Cup at least, probably a bit longer. But yeah, definitely face of Australian rugby. I'm not sure what actually happened. I did see it happen in real time. I think he's complaining with Tuipulotu raced or extended out his arm and hurt his wrist or something, but that was definitely a game-changing moment for Australia against Scotland just at the weekend just past, was when he went off. Never had that kind of star boy there that, once again, another enforcer putting in hits, which he did. He put in a couple of big hits. She even got injured with one of them. And yeah, I mean, I've not went with Suali, but once again, honourable mention. I went with Tuipulotu at 12. I think he was Scotland's best player, also captain, but he was probably Scotland's best player at that series. Played every game apart from the Portugal game. Would that be right?
I think so, yeah.
But he played every minute. Every minute that he was selected, he played. He wasn't subbed off. I'm led to believe from memory anyway. But yeah, Tuipulotu, I was a bit sceptical of him being captain. I wasn't sure if it would put him off his game at all. Also, that they talk about he's not actually Scottish. He's got a Scottish grandmother, but you know what? I actually think he is the man to take Scotland forward and take him forward to the World Cup. I'm fed up of Scotland chopping and changing their captaincies 3-4 times during a World Cup cycle. I think Tuipulotu's your guy. Let's stick with him. Let's back him, because nobody's going to take his place in that 12 role. He's one of the best, if not the most informed 12 in the world just now. Nobody's going to replace him in that 12 position. So I say Tuipulotu 12. But I went with it's maybe a safe bet, maybe a boring one, but it's a player at 13 who just always does a 7 out of 10 performance, never has a bad game, scores tries here and there, always makes his hits, always seems to be at the right place at the right time. I went with Jesse Creel.
Okay. Yeah, I could see why.
It's maybe a boring selection, I know, but I mean, I could have been swayed with Swahili, but the fact he was taken off quite early in Scotland, never quite got the minutes and seen what he could actually do up against the world class centre partnership that was against him. So that's the reason I went with Jesse Creel, because he's just Mr. Consistent. I mean, he's Mr. Superman, as we all know. He's absolutely ripped out his skin. And yes, I went too political with Jesse Creel. Back three. Now, I'm going to... Yeah. I think I've got it right. I've not cheated, but I've put a guy that was primarily playing fullback, I've put him onto the wing. And it's my boyfriend, Will Jordan. So I went with Will Jordan on the wing at 14. I went to Tom Wright of Australia at fullback. I think he once again could have been player of the series. And also I went with Biel Bierry on the other wing for the Frenchman, the young Frenchman, 21 years old. Absolutely pocketed. I mean, was it Argentina winger, and he also pocketed, sadly I'll say it, he also pocketed Talia on the wing against, it wasn't Talia, it was Seven Rees on the wing against the All Blacks.
No, fair enough. I went with Will Jordan as well, although I put him at fullback. I thought, well, who else is there at fullback? Springboks chopped and changed. Kinghorn was okay for Scotland, but nothing that made you like, whoa, he's had a really good couple of games or whatever. Nothing like in your face. So I went with Will Jordan at 15. I went with Darcy Graham at 14 because the amount of tries he scored and the amount of games, considering how injury prone he's been this season for Edinburgh, plus his form, plus Edinburgh's form, I thought, no, he has to be in there. And on the left wing, I went with Kirtley Aarons of the Springboks.
You've got to remember that Darcy Graham, first, like, as good as he is one of the Scotland's best players. He scored a try against Portugal and he scored 4 against Fiji, which was a club side representing Fiji. I don't think he never got a try against the Box. Scotland never scored a try against the Box, which was, I'm not saying that it had to be him that scored, it could have been anyone, but also against Australia. He did show glimpses and he did break the line a few times. Assisted Bayliss, which, I mean, it shouldn't have been a try, like, not because it was a fault of Scotland, but just because 2 missed tackles from Australia on Bayliss, it was absolute criminal from them. I just feel that Darcy Graham, he's came back, he's done very, very well, but I don't think he had the chance and opportunity to do it, which isn't his fault, but he's not had the opportunity to do it against the big dogs fully. Like, I mean, if he maybe the other Scottish players were on their day, maybe the forwards gave him more of a platform to work his magic with against the Box, things could have been different. But I just feel he didn't quite do it on the big stage, whereas BLBRE scored against the All Blacks and he scored against Argentina, possibly twice against Argentina. He absolutely left Japan for dead. I mean Japan bless them, but they're not the best team, but they're still not a pushover. And yeah, Will Jordan, once again, phenomenal against England, phenomenal against Ireland, and what was the most recent game they just played? I mean the All Blacks. Against France.
My bad.
You're still decent against France. Got a try against France as I'm pretty sure he got a try against France as well. Tom Wright. I mean, once again, I don't think you can leave him out, which is why I had to move Will Jordan to 14, because they're not like open play. Tom Wright is possibly the most dangerous player in the world at this current moment in time. Once again, against England and Wales in particular, I mean, I fault England for having weaknesses in attack out in the fringes when they usually defend quite narrow and blitz quite narrow. Tom Wright was exposing the narrow channels, like just darting through defence, through the middle and making great ground, scoring some big tries and assisting as well. I mean, as a fullback, he's almost like a second playmaker, but not in the sense of ball distribution, but more in the sense of he's getting into the space and creating those overlaps for the wingers to finish the tries off. And you're looking at the tries that the Australian wingers scored, it is quite remarkable, and it's very good to see. But that's testament to Joe Smith getting back in the team, getting Tom Wright 5 and giving him that freedom to play that kind of rugby that you know he can. Whereas with Eddie Jones, he just didn't have that kind of freedom and didn't really get picked either.
Yeah.
So you had Kirtley Aarons, yeah. Once again, I can't complain at that one because world class player. The only thing I would say with that is, so this box is rotated so many times. It was just so hard to. It's like that's why I only put 3 Springboks in the team, because it's so hard to choose, because they must. I think they've. What was the start again? They had 54 different players played from this calendar year for the box alone.
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, if you think of Scotland, I mean, how many have they had? And you've got to bear in mind, Scotland have been playing, like, say, like Portugal and that as well. And I don't think Scotland's had nearly as many as that. As Box have played, every single team the Box have played have been, like, tier 1 nations. And Scotland's played, like, Portugal and then the Fiji, like, B team. And I don't think Scotland's came near that. That's not just a dig at Scotland, it's really not. It's just kind of put it into perspective how much depth the Box actually have and how scary it is. Looking like if they put up their strongest team, or think of their strongest team right now, completely scrap their strongest team, they're all dead, and they've got to put their second team out. You would still back them against most clubs. Stop laughing, man. You know what I mean. Imagine the caught on this.
No. It's just like, yeah. I was just thinking, yeah, that exact bit what you've just said. Somebody clips that out, puts it onto Twitter, will go viral or whatever, and then that'll be, oh yeah, all the Springboks are dead.
Well, everybody knows I hate the Box anyway, so it's fine. They can clip it up and put it out if they want. Get some more clip for the podcast. But no, you get my point though. Okay,
Yeah.
That, like, honestly, the first team shitting themselves all night, can't play. Take all the second team out, they still probably beat 95% of teams, international sides. The only team I don't think they possibly beat just now is France, they wouldn't beat, and New Zealand would be contestable. That's the only 2 teams I don't think they would easily beat.
Well, I mean, when they played France at the 2023 World Cup, they had the cheek to win, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, cool. Move on. I mean, oh no, okay. Anyway, you want to mention a thing or two about, was it Warren Gatland?
Yeah, so because my phone was going to die last week, we never really got on to how much hot water Warren Gatland has gotten himself into with Wales. 13 games or something this season, this calendar year, he has coached, I think. Wales haven't won anything. I mean, the bet, I can't remember who it was, the Crusaders or something in Australia in the summer. That's a club. They bet a club, and that's it.
Oh, I think it was. It wasn't. It was the Melbourne Reds. They went to Australia.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I couldn't remember the name. I just
That's all right. I don't remember it. Don't worry, I'm not going to suck you. The Melbourne Reds. I mean, that doesn't count as a test match. 13 losses. Some of them very, very embarrassing, like big score lines, especially in this November. Interestingly enough, though, I put out a poll, and I did it because I knew you were going to mention this. I put out a poll on my Instagram and asked, is it time for Gatland to go? No, sorry. Is Gatland at fault for Welsh rugby's demise?
Yes.
The verdict to that was 65% said no and 35% said yes. Have I got my maths right there? Yes, I have.
Yeah.
35% said yes. So the majority think no. I've tried to rack my brains to figure out why it's not his fault, and I can't come up with a real clear-cut answer. Maybe I should ask to put the question out there again to elaborate. But I mean, I know my opinion is similar to yours. Maybe not as extreme as yours. I know you think he should just go and that's it. But is there anything else you'd like to mention? Like any sort of factor that could be to why so many people would like him to stay, not necessarily stay, but think it's not actually his fault? Why?
Well, it's a bit embarrassing because I'm pretty sure the Welsh Rugby Union have named the Gatling Gate or whatever one corner of the Principality. No, I will say that the Welsh Rugby Union, as much as I've moaned about the SRU and how they've dealt with the game in Scotland, the Welsh are equally as bad, if not worse. I'm pretty sure that even though rugby was or used to be the best or the number one sport in Wales, the SRU put more money into two teams in Scotland than the Welsh do within four in Wales. And I think since the player strike and everything in 2023 and all these different allegations of misogynistic culture and sexism and everything else that's been going on in the Welsh Rugby Union, I think it's really set a poor culture, and the fact that the first team aren't or haven't been winning at all recently just further embodies the fact that it's a complete shit show, and I don't know, other than getting rid of Gatland, how Wales are one going to change, like win a game, and two finally turn things around and try and build a bit of progress. There's been so little positives to come out the autumn. They've regressed so much further. I'm just like, there's nothing more this man can do. Gatland has to offer his resignation because the union cannot afford to get rid of him.
I'm lost for words. Honestly, lost for words.
I've watched a lot and listened to. I've listened and watched a lot of Scottish rugby's take on it. Obviously, I'm assuming he's a Welshman because he doesn't have a stereotypical accent that a Welshman would have. But this is where a lot of my influences came from, is from Scottish rugby.
I've got nothing else to add. Honestly, that's complete truth. Like, I don't know as much detail as that. And this is why I've got Andy in the podcast, because he's a little mega mind when it comes to the nitty-gritty things like this, which is really, really interesting and really, really important to know. But yeah, great points. I mean, that the point you made about, I'm not going to ramble on too long about this, we're out of time, but the point you made about them not investing, like the Welsh Rugby Union invested less money in all four clubs than the SRU did within our two clubs. That kind of makes me think, like, okay, that is a huge factor. I mean, as a head coach of your national side, what have you got to work with there? You just kind of work with the potential that you've got, that you can see. Never mind the potential that these other coaches and clubs, they have got that responsibility to get these like players' potential coming up through the ranks and being good enough for selection for Warren Gatland. So that plays a huge factor. But I'd still think Warren Gatland is spent. Like his time's done. I don't think he's not the man for it anymore. I mean, another man which I think spent and done as well, but he's actually been linked to the Welsh job, is Eddie Jones. I mean, what's your take on that? Have you even heard about that? It's just quite a recent thing, just over the weekend.
There's well, stay with Gatland if the thing Eddie Jones is going to come in and sort things. They're both of the same calibre, they're from the same generation. Joe Schmidt is the only guy of a similar age and generation who would be of any use. And is he going to leave Australia less than a year before the Lions to go to Wales?
Facts, absolute facts. Okay then, we'll stop rambling about that. More on to Scotland. Because we're Scottish, we'll just quickly, briefly, 5-10 minutes, go over how we thought as a whole the series went for them. So, I mean, they played Fiji, they played Portugal, they played into the box before Portugal, and then they also had Australia just the weekend just passed. 3 wins from 4. The loss was relatively not tight, but I mean, it wasn't absolute humping.
The performance was there.
Yeah. To give it a score out of 10, with 6 being average, how would you rate Scotland's Autumn Nation series?
Probably an 8.
I would actually give it I'll give it a 7.5. I think they've showed that they've got a bit of depth in some certain positions, not enough depth in others. They still can't see out games that they need to, as i.e. the last 10 minutes against teams like the Box, who's got absolutely bullied, but most teams do, so I will bear that in mind. But to beat the best, you've got to be the best in all aspects, and that includes depth, and especially being in the last 10 minutes, being in the fight. So that's why, I mean, Tooney will keep his job. He's not too bad at all. If they lost to Australia, I think it would be a different story. A lot of people will be happy with the results. I mean, the Portugal game itself, Portugal's Portugal. Then they had, before that, they had the Fiji. I mean, once again, it was a Fiji B team. Not much I can really say about that. The only two true reflections, like games, which truly reflected how Scotland are getting on, was the Australia game and the Box game. They're good enough to beat most teams, but they're not good enough to beat the best.
But as I kind of hinted to earlier, I don't think anybody at this point in time is good enough to beat South Africa.
France would be the only team.
Well,
honest.
yeah.
That's the only team I can think of. The way France played this series as well, it's literally France, and that's the only team I can see. But in terms of Scotland, I feel 7.5. I think that's kind of fair. Who would you say is your breakthrough player for Scotland this series? I mean, if you want me to buy some time for you, I'll say Tom Jordan for me.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't know what it is. I've just not jumped on that bandwagon. But for me, I'd rather look at how much Tuipulotu's increased like his level of play again.
Okay. I would probably, for me, I would put him probably a player of the series, but solely because he was already established. But yeah, I get your point. He just came on even more. Like, if you thought he was good before, like, he's even better now. And oh my goodness, he's coming right into his prime, 27, 28 years old. Perfect time for him, especially to lead this team forward. But I think Tom Jordan for most improved. Hopefully Townsend can squeeze him in, but I don't quite fancy him at fullback. Maybe he's a utility back on the bench would be the best option because you can cover 10, 12 and 15, which is good, once again, great depth to have, especially if you want to go more forward heavy on the bench. You can do that 6-2 or even 7-1. They might surprise us, do a 7-1 split. I don't think they will, though. I think it'll be a 6-2.
No.
No, but anyway, yeah, so that's that. Who would you think has been the most disappointing out of the whole Scotland kind of team setup, player-wise, or you can maybe go position-wise as well, but I'd say player-wise.
Have you anybody coming to mind?
Well, not player, not a person, but I've got position. Hooker.
Yeah, I was going to say Hooker.
I just think,
yeah.
Like, once again, we go about depth, but also just the accuracy wasn't there. I felt Dylan Richardson was our best hooker that whole tournament. Ashman was good in spells. Ashman was good at spells, but I mean, so was Harry Potter. Didn't make him a good rugby player.
Way, no pun intended, Harry Potter.
But shut up. But Dylan Richardson, I feel, once again, you look at the kind of enforcers, the players that get about the park. Ashman does, but I mean, this might be very, very shit kind of journalism here, but Richardson does it more. And that's the bottom line. As boring as blunt as it is, he just does it more. He's younger. He's more versatile. He can go back row if need be. He made his debut for Scotland at the back row, and I really like his hair, and that's why I prefer him.
Yeah, I'll agree with you with Hooker. We're going a bit negative, so I'll bring it back. I thought Scott Cummins was pretty good. I'll replace Tuipulotu with Cummins. I was very, very impressed with him at second row when he came in, and I think going forward, him and Gilchrist will probably be first choice second row for Scotland in the Six Nations.
I was surprised Cummins never got man of the match against Australia. I was so shocked when King Hall got it. I was convinced Cummins would get it.
I thought Jamie Ritchie was going to get it. I thought he was remarkable.
You've got a good point there. Jamie Ritchie was actually right. A lot of turnovers and key moments, and yeah, it was good to see Jamie Ritchie back. Hopefully he gets like a vice captain or some sort of leadership role. I would like to see it, but even if it is just within the squad, because I mean, pound for pound, he probably won't start if we've got our strongest team out. But once again, coming off the bench, being that impact, getting turnovers against a tired attacking side, it's his dream. It's his bread and butter. Anything else you want to add before we move on? Do our trusty guess who, see if you can claim back some dignity this week.
Yeah, let's just go for guess who then.
That's fine. Okay. Right, I'll go this time. If you're joining at home, remember the rules. It's for if you guess it within the first clue, 5 points. Second clue, 4 points. Third clue, 3 points. Fourth clue, 2 points, and fifth clue, 1 point. And if you don't guess it at all, it's a big fat 0, which Andy's come accustomed to a couple of times. And also, keep a score of what you are. Also, in previous episodes, scroll back to previous episodes if you wish. Keep a tally and see if you can beat me and Andy. Currently, it's 30 points to 24. There is a forfeit for the person who doesn't reach 50 first. Okay, clue number 1. I was born in East Wales in Newport on the 21st of December 1999. East Wales in Newport, which is a city.
Yeah, I knew that. What I don't know is this guy. Fabuloso.
Incorrect. I knew you were going to go Fabuloso, but no. Number 2, my position is a winger.
God's sake. Oh, and I literally don't know any of the Welsh players' names because they're all terrible. Rio Dyer.
Oh, you've only gone and done it!
Are you joking?
No, I'm not. Honestly, I'm not joking. Hands up.
That was literally like, I don't know anybody else. I'm just chucking him out there.
I'm letting you back in. For God's sake.
Yeah, I literally don't know any of the back three other than Rio Dyer, so that's pretty good for me. So what was your clues for number 3, 4 and 5 then?
3 was 23 caps for Wales, scoring 7 tries, which is quite low to be fair. But having said that, he's in a shit Welsh team. Number 4 club is Newport Gwent Dragons. And number 5 is, despite being 24, I am Wales's more experienced back at the moment. One of Wales's more experienced backs at the moment.
Yeah, I probably would have gotten that at number 5, but yeah.
We got a number 2 instead. Okay, right. So
that's fine. Really yeah,
like I need to get points here to keep a gap. But yeah, go on then.
Okay, so clue number 1. I was born on the 22nd of November 1963, making me 61 years old.
61 years old? What on earth? Right, I'm thinking Scottish here. You're playing your poker face again, so I'm going to go Gavin Hastings.
Incorrect. Number 2, I played as a centre or a winger.
So, it could be a brother actually. Is it Scott Hastings?
Incorrect. Number 3, this will give it away. As a player, I didn't earn any caps for the All Blacks.
'61, you played centre or winger, and you didn't earn any All Blacks caps. Oh. I'm
going to have to press you for an answer now.
Okay, I want to ask you a question. Okay, is it Joe Smith?
Incorrect. What was your question?
Is he a coach?
Clue number 4. I retired at 27 due to a recurring shoulder injury.
He's definitely a coach. He's got to be. Is it Warren Gatland?
Incorrect.
Oh my God, no way.
If you don't get this will be worse than me with that Austin guy whose name I can't even remember for last week. Really. Number 5. I am the current head coach of the Kobe Steelers.
So you're 61 years old.
61 years old.
Played centre or wing.
Mm-hmm.
Never played for the All Blacks, so I assume you're a Kiwi.
Well, yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, he's a Kiwi.
Well,
He didn't.
I mean, what a shit clue that would have been if you like, oh, you never played for the All Blacks, but you played
Yeah,
for
because he's South
Namibia.
African. Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Retired at 27 with a shoulder injury. Current Kobe Steelers coach, so coaches in Japan. Oh, there's got to be a 0 pointer. Oh no.
And this is why, folks, you don't watch football when the rugby's on. You watch rugby because we watch an actual sport, not shite.
Ah, but it was England, man. Oh no way. So he did play. Oh no, he's a centre. Ah, who's out there coaching? Van Cotter.
Incorrect.
No, he's the coach for the Blues. No. Who is it?
Dave Rennie.
So another Kiwi who coached Australia.
And Glasgow after Gregor Townsend.
I
I thought number 3 as a player. I didn't earn any caps with the All Blacks. I was like, oh, I should have just put. I didn't have an international career as a player. I thought that was going to give it away. But you scored 0 points in that one, and I get 4.
30, the current score is now 30 points to 28. You have well and truly clawed it back. I'm going to have to start being less generous on you now. I think I've took too much mercy on you. I really shouldn't. The only thing I should take mercy on is your absolute waffle hairline.
Yeah, well, I'll my hairline will start stop receding when you start watching rugby. So
yeah, okay, right. I'm rather disappointed in that. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. Apologies on my woeful performance. Let me know if you managed to get Dave Vernon. It'd be really interesting to see if you actually did get Dave Vernon or not. Keep following us on all the socials. Follow us on X, on of course YouTube. Subscribe, like the video, share it around. Follow us on X, especially Andy, before his absolute world-class punditry as the games go on. And also his nice little takes there. I've seen you had a little. What was the tweet you put out today? Pretty sure you put out some tweet. Was it about Argentina? Or was it some another team or club?
Oh, I can't remember. I don't think I've been on Twitter today, no.
You post so much, you don't even remember, mate. And also follow us on TikTok at Think Rugby and also at Andy Mo. I mean, I'm getting fed up with rugby TikToks Andy says on a daily basis. I'm going to have to block him soon, maybe. So, unless somebody wants to make a buddy with him, take him off my hands. Okay, then, guys. Stay tuned for more in the coming weeks and the coming days. Thank you very much for watching. See you in a bit.
See ya.